Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi barakatuh. Today we are going to start lesson number 4 in our program Articulations and Characteristics. And this is part 1 from lesson 4. We are in chapter number 5 and we are going to start talking once again, regarding the articulation areas in the mouth, but in a little bit more details. And we are going to include the letters that are articulated from this area and some characteristics that accompany these letters. Each letter has its own characteristics. Now let us see, the first part is Makhraj al-Jawf. We already talked about it, but this is just a reminder. Al-Jawf is a whole empty area. It's an empty space, and it includes the throat empty space and the mouth empty space. I think we mentioned this before. Now let us see what Al-Imam Al-Jazri said regarding the articulations of the Arabic letters. He said, I'll read it in Arabic and then the translation. للجوف ألف, meaning that للجوف ألف means there's an alif in al-jawf, pronounced from al-jawf, inside. للجوف belongs to al-jawf. There's an alif. وأختاها, her and her two sisters. Okay. وهي حروف مد للهواء تنتهي. Okay, wow, interesting. You see how he said it? He said that in the jawf there's an alif, and then he connected her two sisters. And those of you, of course, who know the letters, the huruf al-mad, the lengthened letters, immediately you will come across the waw and the ya. Now, does he mean each waw and each ya? Of course not. Just the lengthened waw and the lengthened ya. The translation of these words, as I already said, but let's read here. The empty space in the throat and mouth has the alif and its two sisters. And that is the waw and the ya, but the lengthened waw and ya. And they are the mad letters. Here he says, وَهِيَ حُرُوفُ مَدٍ. They are the mad letters, the lengthened letters. لِلْهَوَاءِ تَنْتَهِي, that ends or stops with the air. We're going to understand this a little bit more. Now, the question is, why did the scholar Al-Jazri relate both letters to the alif, saying alif and her two sisters? Ukhtaha means two sisters. Why did he mention the alif and connected to it the waw and ya? And the reason is because both letters can be lengthened as the alif, the waw and the ya, and can also be moved. But this is not like the alif, okay? And they are unlengthened in other cases. But the alif has only one case, and it's always a lengthened letter. So this means that the scholar means the waw and the ya in the case which is like the alif, meaning the waw, for example, if it has a dhamma before it, then this is exactly like the alif. The alif has a fatha before it, okay? And as we all know, the waw and the dhamma, they are almost the same. The difference is the length. The alif is always with a fatha before it. It's a sukoon. and the waw is a sukoon when it has a dhamma before it, and also the ya, it's a sukoon when it has a kasra before it. These three letters are connected together because they can be lengthened. And let's have more details. A fatha can be attached to the waw and the ya, right? We can have a fatha here on the waw, we can have fatha on the ya, we can have all the movements on the ya. But does the alif have this ability to be moved? Actually not. But another question here, and I think we studied this in our letters program when we were talking about the alif independently, individually, and the waw and the ya. Now, does the waw occur preceded by a kasra? Here, for example, we never find a waw preceded with a kasra. Here, this is a mad tabi'i. This is the normal status of the mad tabi'i, okay? The normal mad, which is a waw sukoon with a dhamma before it, and a ba kasra with a ya before it, with a ya after it, I'm sorry. And this is the situation of the normal mad. And also here, if I have a ya sukoon that has a sukoon sign, and a waw sukoon that has a sukoon sign with a fatha before them, this is lean. But the question again, does the waw occur preceded by a kasra? Or does the ya occur preceded by a dhamma? Let's have a look here. Now these are examples, and we also took them in our letters program, okay? Now here we have this word mizan, meaning balance. It originally was mizan, and then this waw was changed to a ya to simplify the reading, to make it more simpler, easier, to ease the reading. Instead of saying miu, and that's not really simple saying it, then it became mizan. So no more can we see a waw sukoon with a kasra before. And the same here in this word, miwad. This is the original form of this word, but the waw was changed with a ya, and it became mi'ad, and it became a lengthened letter. What about, and this too, for example, miwthaq. It changed to be mithaq, same thing. طيب, what about here? We have a ya sukoon with a kasra after it. So it changed to be musir, okay? Because this is a very difficult pronunciation. Muisir, okay? So it turned to be, they changed the ya to a waw, and it became harf mad, a lengthened letter, and it became musir. And again, why did they do this? To ease the pronunciation. So when we say lengthened waw, when we mention lengthened waw, which waw do we mean? We mean the waw that has a dhamma before it. And what about the ya? The ya, same thing. It accepts all the movements as we've mentioned here. The ya also accepts all the movements. But do we find the ya preceded with a dhamma letter? The one that I was just talking about here? Yes, it existed. But also the same thing as I mentioned, it was changed by a waw so that the pronunciation is easier. What about the alif? What about the alif? What happened to the alif? Let's talk about the alif because it's one of huruful mad. The alif has characteristics actually that no other letter has. Really. It's a very special letter, extremely special letter. You know what? We can say that the alif is a humble letter. متواضعة. You know, we can say al-alif متواضعة if I treat it as a female. And we can say حرف متواضع, okay? A humble letter. And what do we mean by this? We mean that it does not push itself forward. It doesn't come at the beginning. There's never an alif. Don't mix the alif with the hamza. It's never at the beginning, the alif. How come? We don't start speech with an alif. And if you find an alif, it's hamza to wasl, right? And this is because the Arabs don't start their speech with a sukoon. And also the alif is always a sukoon letter. Have you ever seen an alif with a fatha or a dhamma or a kasra or even tanween on top of it? It's always a sukoon. But a sukoon sign is never attached to it. So it is a sukoon letter with no sukoon sign. The same as ukhtaha, as her sisters, her two sisters, okay? And when we say her two sisters, now we understand that the alif that has no sign attached to it with a fatha, and the fatha is the we say in Tajweed, we say the fatha is the daughter of the alif, and we say the kasra is the daughter of the ya, and also the dhamma is the daughter of the waw, because they are exactly the same, but one is shorter than the other. And this is why we can extend them, we can lengthen, okay? So this is why it's always a lengthened letter. I'm talking about the alif. Now, we are going to continue the words that the scholar Al-Jazri mentioned. And he said, وَهِيَ حُرُوفُ مَدٍ. Now we understand this. They are the lengthened letters. لِلْهَوَاءِ تَنْتَهِي. They end with the air. This is the translation. What do we mean by لِلْهَوَاءِ تَنْتَهِي? What do we mean when we say to the air it ends? And now let us explain, what did the scholar mean by this expression? Now, the letter is a sound that depends on a specific exit or an approximate one, right? So what is meant by a specific exit, an articulation point, and an approximate one? If we observe the letter dal, for example, here we have the letter dal. If we observe it, where does it exit from? From the tip of the tongue against the roots of the top two incisors. I'll say it in Arabic. طرف اللسان مع أصول الثنايا العليا. The tip of the tongue against the roots of the top two incisors. This means that the letter dal has a specific exit. Makhraj muhaqqaq. What do we mean by that? We mean that the sound of this specific letter, of the letter dal, ends at this point that we mentioned. We say ad. Without the qalqala, we say ad. Ad. The sound ends where the 2 points collide together. But what about the lengthened letters? what happens to them? Where does the sound of the lengthened letters end? And this is what scholar Al-Jazri said. لِلْهَوَاءِ تَنْتَهِي. The sound of them runs in the jawf, which is the air, the empty air, and it ends when the airflow ends outside the mouth. This means that its exit is not a point, it's an area, a space. This is why the alif and its sisters are the only letters. They are the only letters that exit from an approximate place, approximate area, and not from a specific articulation point. Okay? Now here, for example, we have a specific exit. You see this arrow? Meaning that this point is the exit of the letter. But here, the arrow here shows that all this area is the exit of these letters. So it is Makhraj muqaddar, approximate. And this approximate area is called al-jawf, the empty space in the mouth where the lengthened letters, 3 letters, run in it. And the sound ends when it meets the outer air, outside the mouth. When we say, for example, ba, I can keep on forever, right? But we know that the extension of it, the length of it, is 2 counts. We're going to talk about this when we talk about counting, you know, the movement. 1 movement, 2 movements. And how do we measure this, you know, the length? Is it a second? Or some scholars made it easy, yani. And they said it's the length that it takes you to open your finger or close your finger. This is not an accurate thing also. We are going to talk about it more when we talk about the ghunna. So, this is why it's wrong to end the lengthened letters in a specific point. I just wanted to say this this part. You know, we studied this when we studied the letters, the alif, the waw, the ya, and we said sometimes it's people would end the alif, for example, with a hamza, and they would say ba, ta, right? There's a sound of a hamza. What did I do? I closed the makhraj. I closed the throat. So this means that I added a specific exit to the alif, which should not be. Right? Okay. What differentiate the jawf letters from each other? They exit from the same place, right? What differentiate them from each other? But before I move on, I just want to read this note because this is important. Now, to know the exiting point of a letter, we use it in its unmoved form, in its sukoon form, with a preceding hamza, with any of the 3 movements. We can add hamza wasl بأي من الحركات الثلاث. So we can say ab, at, aq, af, if, uf. Okay, this is how we know where the exit point of the letter. Now this can be applied to all letters except the 3 lengthened letters. Why? Because they don't have a specific exit point. And to know its exiting area, we precede the letter with a hamza moved with a homogene movement so that we can know exactly where are these letters pronounced from. So if we want to pronounce the alif, we put a hamza fatha before it and we say and you can hear it running in this empty space. E, same thing. Oo, same thing. Okay. Now, the question was, what differentiate the jawf letters from each other? They share the same approximate exit, which is al-jawf. So what differentiates them from each other? I'm going to continue, inshallah, in the coming recording. Thank you so much. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.